Well, that episode was a bit of a waste of time. How's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome, to another review of Pokemon Journeys. And I'm gonna attempt to cover episode 41 in this video because, episode 41 is the worst episode of Journeys. I thought nothing was going to top episode 9 as the worst episode in Pokemon Journeys. But then this episode had to come along. In fact, this is probably one of the worst episodes of Pokemon in general. Like, this episode was probably one of the most worthless episodes I've seen. I don't know, I'd rather just had a break week than get this trash. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be... I'm not holding back on this one. This episode was literally trash. Just saying. So, let's try to review this episode. So, if you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe as I cover this series on a weekly basis or whenever the episodes come out. And hopefully, next week's episode is a lot better than today's episode. It looks very promising. But we'll talk about this episode first. So, I suppose we should get on to the review. Okay, we're going to do the same thing that we did with episode 26 that we're doing with this episode. So, I'm going to cover the first part of the episode, review it, and then cover the second part, and then review that. So that's how we're going to do this. So with part 1 in this episode, we have Operation Dub Pikachu, in which Jesse and James are hanging out at the Team Rocket hangout in Journeys, wherever it is in Vermilion City. And Meowth is sick. He probably caught the virus. But he's sick, and Jesse and James, he mentions right before, like as they're talking, that there's something that they're missing. And then he passes out, and James just has to know what they're missing. So they actually find out, I guess Wobbuffet has like a drone out of nowhere, and it's been spying on Ash and Pikachu, and for some reason they're not able to notice this drone machine. But whatever. Anyway, so they start looking at footage, and they start dubbing over Pikachu. And and it's to figure out what they're doing wrong, and they want to figure out how to capture this Pokemon. So they try to dub over Pikachu, and shenanigans happen. Jesse makes Pikachu sound very pompous, and James makes Pikachu end its sentences with P all the time, which was kind of funny, I guess. And then there's a part where, Team Rocket were blasting off, and they thought Pikachu was saying something else, and then Meowth is over here, like, half asleep. He's sick over here, and he's like, I don't have the heart to tell him what Pikachu's actually saying. He's probably telling them to, piss off or something like that. I don't know. But that's pretty much the first half. And they get their gotcha machine, and Meowth is all better at that point. And it turns out, they got they figured out that this is a two-parter. And they've already covered the first part, so then the opening plays. Literally, the opening just plays right after this whole segment. We waited like 12 minutes and we got the opening. Okay, after watching this episode, I just want to say that I feel like this part of the episode is the stronger half. But it's still pretty atrociously bad. It's very slow. It just feels like it's just taking a long time to get to the point. And there are some funny faces that Team Rocket make, but overall, this section, it just... I was just watching this episode, and I was just going through this part. I was just losing interest quickly, because I'm like, there's not really much going on here. It's weird. I mean, Meowth having possibly the virus was kind of... I feel like they did that on purpose, because of what's going on in the world right now. But, there's not really much to say. This part was rather boring. With some comedy here and there, but overall, this part was kind of I'll give this section a 2 out of 10. That's not a good score. and I'm saying that this is the better half. So, oh boy, let's go into part 2. Okay, on to part 2. So, presumably part 2, Ash and Go are probably in Hoenn or something like that, because they're walking around and they happen to stumble across a Marstomp that is trapped in the ground. Just randomly trapped in the ground. And Go, being Go, tries to catch this Pokemon, and it doesn't let him catch it. This Marstomp also has some other Marstomp buddies, which are scared of Ash and Go. And they realize they need to get this Marstomp free, so they try to figure out how to get this Marstomp out. First, they try to get its friends to help them out, but they're too scared. Go tries Sobble. Sobble freaks out. So they try to get some water another way. So they go over to a nearby river and try to carry it on a leaf, and that doesn't exactly work, as they're carrying it around. Pikachu gets some water, and then Ash is like, I'll take it from here because it's too heavy for you, Pikachu, and Ash immediately trips and drops the water. And yeah, and Ash has a brilliant idea where he starts drinking, well, not drinking the water, but he puts the water in his mouth. He's going to carry it over there, which fails. So they're wondering, okay, how the heck are we going to get this Pokemon free? And that's when Ludicolio, just some random Ludicolio, shows up. And they're like, hey, you need to use like Rainy Day, or Rain Dance, or whatever, and to try and get this Pokemon free, as it's, starting to look very uncomfortable. Marstomp over here is looking pretty sad. So Ludicolio misinterprets Ash and Go and uses Sunny Day, and it becomes bright and sunny. And they try to convince him to make it rain, and he's not having it. But he eventually realizes what he needs to do and uses the technique, and Marstomp is free. Well, Ash and Go come back the next day, and not only is that Marstomp back, stuck in the ground, multiple of them are now suddenly, randomly in the ground, and yeah, that's pretty much part 2. Well, so part 1 was already pretty boring as itself. This one happened to be even more boring. The premise of this episode, or this part of the episode, being that they're just trying to help this Marstomp and get him water, and Ash and Go constantly fail to do so. Yeah, I'm glad this isn't a full 22-minute episode, because, that would have been absolutely atrocious if that were the case, but just this half episode, it's almost too much, too. Again, it just was really boring, and nothing really of worth happened. We were hoping, like, if Go caught Marstomp here, cool. He would have caught this Pokemon in a very boring episode, but at least he would have accomplished something. He didn't even do that. This episode was something, that's for sure. So, I wanted to round things off here by comparing this episode with episode 26 really quickly. So, I will say that I wasn't the biggest fan of episode 26 when it first came out, but it's grown on me a little bit since it aired. And I will say that episode is at least fairly entertaining and quite funny. I mean, the image of Ash and Go being super buff in the first part of that episode is one of the most hilarious as well as ridiculous things I've ever seen from the Pokemon anime. It's comedy gold. I love it. Unfortunately, this episode lacks the entertainment value that episode 26 had, while also lacking comedy as well. There were a few decent comedic moments in the Team Rocket section, but besides that, the episode was just not very funny and not entertaining. In fact, this episode was quite a chore to watch. And again, there's just so many boring segments in this episode, and it just felt like things just dragged on too long. It was getting to the point where I was literally looking away from my screen, looking at my phone, just not even paying attention to the episode anymore, and that's not good at all. When I'm like not paying attention to an episode at certain points, yeah, that means you kind of lost me there, which is not good. And lastly, I just want to say, and this pretty much goes for any series out there that does filler episodes, if you're going to do filler, make the filler entertaining. For example, like the baseball episode in Sun and Moon. That was a fun filler. I love that episode. It's fun. I like going back and watching that one. This episode, on the other hand, is a prime example of bad filler in anime. It's an episode that just is there to just waste time. It's definitely an episode I'm never watching again, which is kind of annoying, because again, baseball episode good filler. This episode, bad filler. So yeah, that's my point. So I'm just going to go ahead and end off the review, because there really isn't much else I can add to this episode. Yeah, this episode was trash. It was a waste of time. I would have rather gotten a 5th episode for the Sword and Shield arc over this. That would have been nice, but, whatever. This is what we got. So guys, what'd you think of this episode? You can go ahead and roast this episode if you want in the comment section down below. Be my guest. This episode deserves it. So, anyways, if you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you all later. You all stay safe out there. Have a good day or night wherever you're at. And peace.